Why would the FDA ban hydroxychloroquine? We're gonna talk about it. Man, I've been talking a lot. What time is it? Man, I've been talking for 15 minutes, y'all. Come on, man. Y'all let me out here go. See, this is what they do, man. Y'all be trying to get me caught up on a rant. Like, man, who Niko gonna talk shit about today? Think y'all slick. All right. Let's go ahead and get this show on the road, party people. What is going on, everybody? Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Of course, as always, I am your humble host, Niko House. Before we get started, of course, I want to ask you all to make sure that you're subscribed. I know a lot of people have been having notification issues, and as you can see in the chats, we've been discussing it. People have suggested unsubscribing and then resubscribing and then making sure you hit that notification bell. Or if you don't want to deal with any of that, go to rockfin.com, ROKFIN.com, where we will not be suppressed. And not to pat myself on the back, but I'm going to do it anyway. You know, we are the most watched political show on Rockfin so far. So, you know, you go to Rockfin, you'll see us, and you'll catch all of our posts. Especially when we start reposting our premium exclusive Rockfin content starting next week. All right. And if you want, you can either help to support the show by joining us on Patreon, or which the link is in the description below, or you can endorse us on Rockfin and get everybody's premium content. That means my premium content, the Convo Couch premium content, Ron Pacone, Graham Elwood, Kim Iverson, Richie Medhurst from Poppy Chuloman, Jimmy Dore. You get all of our premium content if you go endorse us for just $9.99. That's all it takes, $9.99. You get everybody's premium content, which is super exciting. All right. And by the way, the link to my Rockfin page is in the description below, but it's ROKFIN.com/Niko. Make sure you go follow us there. With that being said, I want to go ahead and get started with today's show. It's been an interesting couple of weeks in this fight for criminal justice reform, this fight for police reform, and unfortunately, where we've seen some improvements, right, where we've seen some cities take these reforms very seriously, we have seen the federal government drop the ball again and again and again and again. And unfortunately, when we're talking about the police state, when we're talking about propping up corrupt institutions, the Supreme Court has unfortunately generally been at the forefront of ensuring that these institutions are not held accountable. I mean, I don't understand what the hell is the point of having checks and balances when one of the checks is never checking anybody, is seemingly what we're getting from the Supreme Court once again. Why do I say that? Because the Supreme Court, this was reported this morning, the Supreme Court will not consider limiting police immunity from civil lawsuits. What is police immunity? Well, police immunity and political immunity is generally granted to police officers who have or potentially could be victims of a lawsuit or prosecution. Same thing goes for a political elite. It said, the article is from USA Today, and then it says that the Supreme Court refused Monday to consider the legal immunity from lawsuits generally given to police and other public figures accused of misconduct. The justice's decision not to hear a case on qualified immunity in their next term, which begins in October, follows the death last month of George Floyd, an African-American man in Minneapolis, while in police custody. His killing led to days of unrest. Is still days of unrest, as well as peaceful protests across the United States and a renewed national debate about racism and police brutality. The Supreme Court has in recent decades set a high bar for pursuing lawsuits over official misconduct. I would know, considering that I was literally jumped into Burger King by 6 police officers. They lied about why they arrested me, because of course I was there to, eat burgers. They said, no, you weren't. You were trespassing. That's why you have a whole receipt. Then they actually held me hostage in the hospital till they could fake an arrest affidavit. Then they did something with my medical records so that it would be almost impossible for me to find that they dislocated my rotator cuff and I had to get treated for that. And nobody will take the case because they're terrified of Miami PD and they don't think they can win. So trust me, it's a high bar for official misconduct to result in a lawsuit. Officers' behavior must violate quote unquote clearly established laws or constitutional rights, and courts have found it seldom does because almost every specific allegation is different. In other words, a lot of times courts base judges, and even jury base their decision, their verdict on precedents set in past cases. Well, if everybody's having a different case, and then of course because of that, maybe the defense is trying to use precedents, but there can never really be any established because all of them keep getting thrown out because there is no real precedence of prosecution over a lot of what we have seen, especially when we're talking about like the George Floyd situation, right? And so because of that, that leads to no one getting prosecuted. Immunity. Because everybody should feel safer knowing that the people who are supposed to keep you safe can kill you and basically have zero repercussions. Congratulations. You live in a police state. Now, what's even more interesting about this is the fact that the Supreme Court is they didn't just kill the idea, people. They didn't just kill the idea. They're refusing to even hear the case. They're not even going to listen to it. They're not even going to consider. We just saw a man murdered by a police officer after putting his knee having the police officer's knee put in his neck for over 8 minutes. And the cop wasn't even initially arrested. It took hell from the public for the cop to even be arrested. We just saw Hillary Clinton, literally commit multiple felonies on top of multiple felonies. And James Comey told us, well, yeah, I mean, she was guilty of this. Yeah, she shouldn't have had that server in there. Yeah, that server was probably hacked by some foreign adversary. I mean, yeah, she's basically guilty of everything. But hey, listen, y'all, for a second, she didn't mean to. She didn't mean to break the law. And therefore, we can't even indict her. Yes, not she was acquitted. No, we can't even indict her because she didn't mean to. So clearly political elites get off time and time again. And it is largely because of this law. And it's like I said, it's super weird that they won't even hear this. Because according to the USA Today, some justices, lower court judges, and scholars on both the left and the right have questioned the legal doctrine for creating a nearly impossible standard for victims to meet and a nearly blanket immunity for those accused of misconduct. Associate Justice Clarence Thomas dissented from the decision not to hear a new case on qualified immunity, one involving a burglar who surrendered and then was bitten by a police dog. I have previously expressed my doubts about our qualified immunity jurisprudence, he wrote, because our qualified immunity doctrine appears to stray away from the statutory text. I would grant this petition. So Clarence Thomas, a conservative, supports the idea of addressing these issues, or at least, like I said, at least addressing it, at least hearing the case. But the deep state going deep state, right? Just like when it comes to most issues, unfortunately, when it's time to address corrupt institutions overall, when it is time to address accountability that could set precedents, which would trickle down or trickle up, I should say, and affect everyone in power, all of a sudden We don't even want to hear the case. Come on, bro. You don't even want to hear it. Otis, thank you very much for the super chat. Sending a salute from Illinois. My man. Appreciate you. I don't know. I mean, the good news is this can still be challenged around the country. If enough federal justices, like at the state level, Supreme Court justices at the state level, or federal judges at the state level, if enough of them decide this police immunity thing has got to go, then the Supreme Court is eventually forced to readdress and reassess their decision to not hear the case. We saw this happen. I mean, literally that's always been the case, but most recently we can think of what happened around 2013, 2014 time frame, whenever marriage equality was legalized, right? For the longest, it wouldn't even be really entertained. But then North Carolina agreed to, I think Vermont had already legalized it, and you saw courts around the country backing up North Carolina's decision. So when enough courts from enough jurisdictions fight and say this, we have precedents, or they establish precedents. When enough people and enough courts establish precedents, the Supreme Court can no longer ignore it. So what the call to action must be at this point is to continue to fight. If you're an attorney, continue to challenge. If you're a nonprofit that has attorneys at your disposal who fight on behalf of criminal justice, you have to get your attorneys in the ring at the local level, at the state level, and then eventually, because it will be appealed. Oh, you better believe it's going to be appealed. You're going to have to just keep chipping away at the corrupt system. It's like I said, it sucks. It's a blow to the cause. It sucks because we've been seeing so many positive reforms coming about all over the country, mostly at the state and local levels, right? I don't expect the federal government to do much for me at this point. However, that does not mean, one blow to the movement does not mean that we should end it. If anything, what it shows is that, okay, y'all haven't been listening to the protests, so maybe we should protest some more. So if you're out there protesting right now, shout out to you. Keep it up, because clearly some people in the government ain't quite hearing you loud enough. So Marcus Will, thank you very much for the super chat. You can bet your left hand as more and more attention will be drawn to Israeli training of city police, more revelations of Floyd's past will come to light. I 100% agree. That's how it goes, right? I'm pretty sure Chauvin was kind of surprised, and the people that were supporting him were kind of surprised, because usually when a cop kills a black man, the black man's history comes out first. But in this particular case, Chauvin's history was put out first. So it was kind of caught off guard. They were like, oh man, let's just throw some stuff together out there. And I don't even know how much of it I can take seriously. I don't know how much. Like I said, if you would have looked at my charges for whenever I was brutalized by police officers, it would look like I was a crazy trespasser trying to steal from Burger King. And that was not the case. They'll write, man, listen, when cops want you to go to jail, when they don't like you, that police report will reflect whatever it needs to for them to hold you in custody. Believe that. So I don't even know if I would trust it. I'm not saying that. I don't know George Floyd personally. But like I said, it's always a convenient. I've seen just so many false police reports, so many false charges to justify a wrongful arrest, to justify the fact that the charge of resisting the arrest was put there, to justify the beatings and the bruises that police officers cause. So, Sparky, thank you very much for the super chat. Cops aren't cool like 007, but have a license to kill. That's basically what the Supreme Court is trying to say, unfortunately. Right. All right. With that being said, I want to move on to our next topic, because this is a interesting one, and I think a lot of y'all will get down with what is being discussed. So, in case a lot of you all did not know, the NBA is planning on bringing back the league July 31st. They want to basically transplant every NBA player put them, well, not all of them. There's like a limit on the teams. There's a 22 team limit. They want to take them, put them in Orlando in a secluded location where they can't infect anyone else, and they can't be infected. And obviously, this was met with cheers by a lot of people who are just like, bro, I'm just tired of watching old games. I want something to matter. I would just want to be, entertained, right? Which makes sense, and it's natural to want entertainment. We all need entertainment in order to distract ourselves at times from the uncomfortable realities that life tends to bring. Okay, but with that being said, we cannot be naive. We cannot pretend like there aren't issues that require our immediate attention right now, right? And a few NBA players and one specific NBA superstar have raised some questions about the timing of the NBA's restart process. So let's go ahead and check out a clip about this.
During a call with nearly 100 players Friday night. On the 90-minute call, Irving reportedly made the case that resuming the season would be detrimental to the players' work on social justice and police reform. Dwight Howard agrees. In a statement to CNN, he said in part, "I agree with Kyrie. Basketball or entertainment period isn't needed at this moment and will only be a distraction. Sure, it might not distract us, the players, but we have resources at hand the majority of our community don't have. And the smallest distraction for them can start a trickle-down effect that may never stop. Especially with the way the climate is now, I would love nothing more than to win my very first NBA championship, but the unity of my people would be an even bigger championship that's just too beautiful to pass up." Steven Jackson, meanwhile,
hold on. No.
Playing basketball is going to do one thing: take all the attention off the task at hand right now and what we fighting for. Everybody going to be worrying about the playoffs. They're going to have all that blasted all over the TV, and nobody's going to be talking about getting justice for all these senseless murders by the police, and nobody's going to be focusing on the task at hand, bro. None of these white owners have spoken up. None of them are taking a stand. Yeah, they might post a video when the season starts or saying what we should do, but they ain't doing nothing. Playing basketball ain't gonna do nothing but make them money and take the attention of what we fighting for, what we marching for. It's bigger than all of us, and it's bigger than the game. And I'm sad that we still got to explain that to people, bro.
Patrick Beverly of the
All right, people. All right. So, first of all, if you know Dwight Howard, that might have been the most profound and articulate statement that man has ever made, ever. Dwight Howard is generally not one for many words, and when he does talk, sometimes it can come off as incoherent. Let's just put it like that. And he's been known, unfortunately, sometimes to be a little bit self-centered. Kyrie is an interesting person. If you watch the NBA, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And Steven Jackson himself is also an interesting person, but has never really been shy about dealing with issues of racial inequality and police brutality in this country. He's kind of been an advocate for a lot of issues regarding this particular subject, and the treatment of black people in general. Like, he's been avidly against the weed. He's been fighting the weed ban in the NBA since he was in the NBA, which is a while ago. And now the NBA is effectively allowing weed starting July 31st. And they're going to breathe. So he's pretty well known to fight for causes. But there are these three NBA players are basically from like three different walks of life. When we're talking about how you get to the NBA, how you're known for being in the NBA, and where they're at in their careers. Steven Jackson being a tough guy, Kyrie being kind of like an introverted, fake woke person, and then Dwight Howard kind of being a goofball. These people are like, look, they have pretty distinctive personalities, and they're not really associated with working together to achieve any real goal. And yet, they have been uttering something that I know a lot of people from this particular audience and a lot of audience from the independent media, the woke world, they have been saying. People have been saying, if the NBA comes back, it will be used as a distraction from the issues, right? If the NBA does come back, it will be used to distract from what happened to George Floyd before we get any meaningful reforms. We've just seen Minneapolis agree to disband the police and completely rethink the idea of policing in their community. We've seen states ban chokeholds, cities ban chokeholds. We've been seeing positive reforms at the local level. Now, unfortunately, we've still, even in recent days, have been seeing black people get killed by cops. So clearly, the job isn't done, right? And we are at a weird moment in time. We're at a weird moment in history where all the circumstances converged in such a way that more people are paying attention to the way black people, brown people, and marginalized people in general, and basically everybody who stands up for them, are being treated by the cops. I like what they're saying. Now, once again, these are three different players, and I think it's important to understand where they're at right now. Steven Jackson, whose nickname is Stack 5, is retired from the NBA. He plays in the Big Three, but he has a show with Matt Barnes, and he's a part-time commentator. Okay, so basically, the NBA coming back is good for his career at this point, right? Because he doesn't do a show right now. There's a podcast that they do for Showtime, and so they're usually in the same room for that podcast. Have not really been able to do it. It's beneficial for him for the NBA to come back. Kyrie Irving is injured. Okay, he's injured. The other Kevin Durant, who's the best player on his team, is not coming back. So he really doesn't have any incentive, of course, to come back. So people kind of attack Kyrie for that at first. But then you got to go to Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard is an integral piece on a potential championship team. Knowing that there is really not a better opportunity for him to win a championship because of a plethora of circumstances than right now. And this might be his only championship. And this man is already going into the Hall of Fame. But one of the worst things you can possibly do as an NBA player in the eyes of many fans is go to the Hall of Fame with no rings. So this is a big deal for Dwight Howard. And yet he understands that there are some things that are more important than winning a ring. I genuinely appreciate, and by the way, just speaking as a person who misses the hell out of the NBA. Lord baby Jesus, do I miss the NBA. I'm trying to tell y'all, that was like my thing. That was the one thing I was able to use to distract myself consistently whenever I just need to unplug from all this craziness. So I miss the NBA. I'll be excited when the NBA comes back. But what Kyrie, what Steven Jackson, and what Dwight Howard said amongst the plethora of other players is absolutely true. Unless the NBA reaches an agreement with the players who have this concern, stating that perhaps we'll be active, right? The owners in the league in general will be active in calling attention to police brutality. We'll be active in the community, in helping people fight for, we just talked about this qualified immunity issue, right? Helping people fight things like that, putting their money where their mouth is. Then otherwise, other than maybe saying one or two things at the beginning of the season and then allowing maybe the players to say whatever they would like to. But that's already been a thing. It's not like LeBron's been very outspoken when it comes to these type of issues. That's not enough though. But because the NBA, the NFL, MLB, and other sports have not been there to distract people, now everybody's paying attention. It's just one of the factors. Because what happens is they got kicked out of work. Well, now I'm at home. Well, then your kids is out of school. So now you got your kids. Oh, okay. Well, at least I can, if I'm stuck at home, I can at least watch my sport. Oh, no, you ain't got sports either. Can't go out nowhere. But sports is probably like 60% of that, depending on who you are. And it will serve as a distraction. So I understand there are genuinely, by the way, there's genuinely legitimate arguments against that, against not coming back for that particular reason. There are. Stephen A. Smith, if you're familiar with him, he did not give a good one. He was like, oh, just because people aren't, you shouldn't just skip work because police brutality is a thing and racism exists. That's always been a thing. It's been there even before you played basketball. That's not what they're saying. What they're saying is right now isn't the time. Now, granted, you have to take revenue into account. Players have families to feed. Not every player is getting paid LeBron James money, Kyrie Irving money. Players are already taking the pay cut. And some people, like I said, can't afford their staff. And, there's a lot of things that go into it. So I understand that part. TV revenue. Like, there's a lot that goes into this. And they're all, like I said, legitimate arguments. However, I think it is commendable that the players are saying, the ones who actually will be on the floor are saying, this isn't the time, man. This isn't the time. There are some things that are more important than basketball. There's something that are more important than sports, and there's something that are more important than money. And yeah, you're going to do what's best for your bottom line, but I think it's time that a league like the NBA that is dominantly African American thinks about their bottom line too, which is the safety of their family, the people who are not insulated by the money and the fame, the safety of people that look like them, the safety of themselves. They should be able to live in peace. It shouldn't be, yeah, I'm a famous basketball player, but I'm still black. And players have discussed that in the past. I mean, LeBron had his house spray painted with the N-word and all kinds of crazy stuff. The answer to this should not be shut up and dribble. The answer to this should be absolutely. You're 100% correct. There is 100% a risk that you run by starting the NBA, because you got to remember, this is an alternative NBA schedule where they will be having games on TV damn near all day. You want to talk about the ability to be distracted that you did not have before? You will be able to be distracted basically up and through from January to August, September. I think they're supposed to end at the end of September, beginning of October. That's when the playoffs are supposed to end. So you'll be able to distract yourself basically for the rest of the quarantine in a way that you weren't able to before. And that has to be considered. If the NBA really does care about these issues like this, the way they say they do, at least at the league office level, then these players shouldn't be just ignored. This is where you reach out to those players, and they have one of the strongest players unions, by the way. So that's great. But this is where now you reach out to those players and say, what can we do so that we can use the platform that we are now going to have again to bring attention to these injustices that would be comfortable, that would make the situation, good for everybody involved. So now we get to keep our revenue. We get to make sure players can feed their families, get back on the court, provide the entertainment value that is sorely needed once again. But also now we get to couple that with using that platform, that elevated platform, by the way, because the focus is going to be, like I said, it's going to be back to back games. So now everybody's watching because you are one of the only sports available at this point. I think UFC is the other one, and some countries have started back up soccer. Some leagues have, but in America, you're basically it. And now you can use that elevated platform to bring attention to these issues in a way that you may not have thought about doing before. And I hope that at the bare minimum, that is at least what comes out of this conversation that was started by Kyrie, Dwight Howard, and Stack 5, Steven Jackson. So let me get some of these super chats. Dap the Vegan, thank you very, very much. Bro, we will get change if college football players sit out next season. These white people will be begging to defund the police. Yo. Honestly, y'all don't even know how true that statement is. As a person who came from a top 5 school, that's like, gets a lot, UNC. UNC is the ACC. Believe that. We're not really all that good in college football anymore. We were a couple years ago. Not anymore. But I can tell you this. White people don't know what to do without their college football, bro. College football is more popular than the NFL is. Did y'all know that? College football is more popular than NFL. Hell, I remember I think they gave what's that dude from Nick Saban? I think they gave him like some crazy $8 to $10 million a year or something like that to coach Alabama after they made like 80 million in revenue over the course of some bro. It's insane how much money they make because of how many people are such diehard football fans. If every college player decide to sit out, boy howdy. Look, y'all see how the NCAA acted just because they about to get paid. People freaking out because they're worried they're not going to get the same type of, you're going to have athletes holding out now. They worried about that. Imagine if they all just said, we're not sitting out until this country addresses police brutality and racism. Oh, Lord. They wouldn't know how to act. So I 100% agree. Sparky. No one wants lame games with virtual excitement. I don't know, man. Depending on what sound system you got, some people prefer the virtual excitement. And I think I missed one of your other ones. You said it's a pathetic attempt at a distraction at best. So I wouldn't say that it's a pathetic attempt at a distraction because the July date is something that had been being discussed for months in advance. Like they had been in talks with Disney. They had been talking about the end of July, like, which of course you would have to be doing months in advance because of just the nature of the beast. So it isn't an attempt at a distraction, but there could still be unintended consequences, which is what Kyrie, Dwight Howard, Steven Jackson, and others are trying to bring attention to, and I 100% agree with them. All right. Oh, Glory. What's going on? Premier League starts again in 2 days. If y'all need something to watch, we in the Manchester United bandwagon are currently accepting applications. Well, oh man. Hold up. Is the French league starting back up too, Glory? Because I need to know. I'm just waiting for Cristiano to get back on the field. I ain't gonna lie to you. Y'all kind of boring over there at the Premier side, man. Y'all with y'all tea and crumpets in the Premier League and shit. Just kidding. What's up? What are the questions? What did I miss? Sparky, riding off the season and wait until next year. Hell no. I ain't doing it. I ain't gonna let him do it. You can't take basketball. Listen, man. I need my Giannis Antetokounmpo MVP and championship because I predicted he would be an MVP and an NBA champion when he was like 19 and just got into the league. I said, oh, this man about to be the rawest player in the NBA. And it turned out I was right, but I need him to get a ring, and this is the year to do it. If there was a year. The year that Kawhi and LeBron and they over in the West now, and KD hurt and Kyrie hurt. Just saying. I'm not being selfish, but I'm just considering, I'm being considerate for my predictions. I might have $1 or $2 on that, okay? Oh yeah, that's right. He plays in Italy. Duh, not France. Thanks for the reminder. That's weird. I'm not getting all of them. Dap the Vegan, I've always said entertainment around year sports. Your team versus my team is all a damn distraction to keep us unaware of how the elites are screwing us. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of truth to that. There's definitely a lot of truth to that. 100%. But at the same time, as an athlete myself, bro, sports is just fun. It's fun to compete. If I wasn't competing in sports, I would be competing in video games when I was young. And because back then I wouldn't have been competing because, we didn't have internet like that. The dial-up was crazy. Net zero was slow as hell. But just there is value in playing team sports. Sparky, next season will be here before you know it. No, it won't. It's already too, bro. I'm stressing over this July 31st date. When they announced it last week, I was like, really? So y'all gonna make us wait a whole nother month and some change? Just fly their ass down here and get it popping. But I'm trying to exhibit some patience. I know we're in unique circumstances. Plus, I got faith in Adam Silver. I have faith in Adam Silver. If the players speak out about something, Adam Silver does not simply just ignore them. He could have screwed them over their revenue from the rest of the season, and he didn't do that. And they had every opportunity to. So I have faith in Adam Silver. I think he's the best commissioner in all sports. And so, and when it comes to these issues specifically, he always makes the right statements. He's always listening to his players association, and I think that he's going to make the right call here. All right, let's get to the fun stuff. FDA and hydroxychloroquine, COVID-19, the fun topic that everybody loves, that nobody covers for some reason. Like super important topic, but whatever, I guess. I don't know. Y'all just have to. Why is that? Why are no progressives covering any of this hydroxychloroquine stuff? Do y'all know? In all seriousness, this issue isn't all that complex. It isn't all that complex. I get how some, like when you're talking about getting into the actual research and development side, the actual practice of medicine and all that, okay, I get it, cool. But when you distill it, as far as the politics is concerned, it's an extremely important conversation. And it's some really easy questions that we could all be asking as people who have basic logic and reasoning skills. At least I would hope you have them. I would hope you have some critical thinking skills if you have a whole show dedicated to talking. And the reason I say that is because the question hasn't been posed, for example, why has no one asked, we're having all this conversation about vaccines and hydroxychloroquine, but why is no one asking what other solutions have been made available? And then, of course, then you find out there has been other solutions introduced. And then you have to ask, well, why haven't we been exploring those solutions? And then when they're talking about research, why has the research, what methodology are y'all using? And then there's contradicting narratives that also should be addressed, but that's not happening. And given everything going, our lives are being completely turned upside down with COVID, I feel like is an injustice. Like that the progressive community and the independent community in general is doing an injustice by doing one of two things. They're either hyper politicizing it, right? Democrats good, Trump bad, or the reverse, right? Trump amazing all the time, Democrats are the worst thing since Democrats. You're doing a disservice by hyper politicizing it or pretending like it doesn't exist because you don't want the backlash from doing common sense research. Y'all be more than willing to talk about the Hillary Clinton Victory Fund and Russiagate, and this is the same thing. It's okay. Everything can be influenced by money. Once you accept that, then there's no topic that is off, that should be off the table. And especially when we're talking about a pandemic like this. Sparky, you said the whole bread and circuses deal keeps us down. I agree with that. The core or MTH a core. It's Mook. What's up, Mook? Who's better with the ladies, Johnny or Pasta? Johnny looks like he has game, but Pasta's got his home cooking game on. Man, honestly, that's a hard one. That's kind of hard, bro. Cause Johnny can't cook. So we gotta just go ahead and get that out there right now. But he's smooth. He a Capricorn too, and I'm a Capricorn. So in Capricorn, we smooth, man. We some smooth operators. But Pasta is also a smooth operator too. Don't get it twisted. Pasta will sit there and woo you over. With every time Pasta go on a date, it ain't really like a date. It's like he's like, oh, I'm about to go cook for somebody. Oh, so you go on a date? No, man. She just invited me over to cook, so I was like, I go over there to cook for her. What you making, Pasta? A bunch of words I can't pronounce, cooked in ways I've never even heard of before. Just because they're friends. That boy think he's slick. You can't say nothing slick to a can of oil though. But they both smooth. But Fee is the smoothest. Don't get it twisted. Fee got girls and boys chasing after her. All right, we good? You said Pops can whip it in the kitchen. He does, man. He gets mad when I don't eat. Like if he cooks something like the day before or that day, and I'm like, I just was out, so I got something else, and he's like, really, bro? So you just not gonna eat my food? My food not good? Relax. I'm grown. I wanted something specific. Chill out. Not one of your dates, bro. Man, let's get started with this damn topic. If we don't mark it down, maybe you can let yourself know that way. All right, so fun topic. Well, no, it's actually kind of scary, but still fun. The FDA has decided to end emergency use of hydroxychloroquine for coronavirus. Now, before you get started, I'm sure there is a perfectly legitimate reason. No, there isn't. But we're going to investigate, okay? We're going to investigate. This is according to Politico. The Food and Drug Administration on Monday withdrew emergency use authorizations for 2 coronavirus treatments that President Trump... What the fuck? Why? That President Trump promoted despite concerns about their safety and effectiveness. Now, what did I just say, people? What did I just say? Didn't I just say those who are hyper politicizing this issue are doing the entire country a disservice? And yet here we are in the opening paragraph. The Food and Drug Administration on Monday withdrew emergency use authorizations for 2 coronavirus treatments that President Trump promoted despite concerns about their safety and effectiveness. Concerns from who? The safety, now it's not safe. It's crazy because last time I checked, chloroquine has been used for, I don't know, ever, like all the time by people. I mean, there are a lot of different reasons that people use it. I know rheumatoid arthritis is the most popular reason to use it. So now there's safety concerns though. And if you throw Donald Trump's name with any negative adverb or adjective, then it makes it true. Basically, that's what that means. Come on. The article goes on to say that the agency revoked the authorizations for hydroxichloroquine and chloroquine after a request from Gary Disbrow, the acting director of Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority. Okay. Well, Mr. Gary, Mr. Acting Director, which we'll go into why he's the acting director shortly. Now, if you're gonna make a request like that, you better have some damn good reasons provided, right? I think that everybody agree. As I scroll down this article, I should see study after study, after paper, after paper, after journal, after journal, after article, after article. Because I mean, that's a huge suggestion. And that, the bearing, like what the consequences could be overall could have a net negative effect on the healthcare overall in this country, not just involving COVID, because hydroxychloroquine is not only used to treat COVID, which people keep seeming to forget. So we're going to scroll down, but I got a feeling I'm going to be disappointed once again. It's just it's got this feeling. I'm just really good. I mean, it's not really good at it. I just assume that if it's the federal government, then I'm gonna be disappointed because they don't ever use facts to validate their nonsense. It's just, well, I'm right. Don't you see my title? I have a really good title. You don't get this title by being wrong all the time. Actually, in our government, basically being right most of the time immediately disqualifies you from any legitimate job. But I digress. After reviewing new information from large clinical trials, the agency now believes that the suggested dosing regimens are unlikely to produce an antiviral effect, the FDA chief scientist Dennis Hinton said in a letter announcing the decision. Okay, Large clinical trials where? I'm confused. I'm so confused. What you mean large clinical trial? Bro, what the what are you doing? How are you gonna say after large clinical trial? What the what qualifies as a large clinical trial? What does that even mean, people? How? What was the number? Because last time I checked, didn't EU just make a decision based off of a paper, a peer-reviewed paper that they had to throw out because it was bullshit? Didn't that just happen? And so we found out, of course, that the European Union had 3 countries that made a decision regarding hydroxychloroquine specifically that affected basically the entire EU, but specifically those 3 countries and everybody in those 3 countries. And it turned out that was a horrible decision to make because they didn't do what I thought to do before making a decision about how I'm going to go about this, which is, can you see the methodology? Can you see the numbers? And can that test be reproduced if you had all the, all the circumstances replicated? And the answer to that question so far regarding this particular decision in this particular study is can't be replicated. Okay? The study can't be reproduced so far as what I've seen. I can't see the methodology, so we have zero idea how they came to this conclusion because once again, last time this conclusion, which was what, 2 weeks ago, a conclusion very similar to this happened 2 weeks ago. And then, of course, I just am not seeing any veracity here. I don't see any verification, and yet decisions about the entire country's well-being is being decided off of information that we have no access to, apparently. The article goes on to say that critics have accused the agency of caving to political pressure when it authorized the use of hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine in hospitalized COVID-19 patients in late March, despite thin evidence. There was also no evidence that it was harmful. There was thin evidence that ventilators were a good idea, and yet you're paying hospitals to put people on them. Literally paying hospitals to say that COVID patients died on ventilators. Don't you think that's a problem if you have enough patients dying on a ventilator that it is now statistically significant to the point where you can provide funding based off of patients dying on a ventilator? Don't you think that's a problem? Because I ain't never heard nobody getting hydroxychloroquine and just dying the next day. But that has been the case for ventilators. That's a different discussion. All right. It says most recent randomized controlled trials have found the drugs do not benefit coronavirus patients. And doctors have reported that hydroxychloroquine can cause heart problems. Here, where have I heard this damn story before? I'm still waiting on a link to the study. Nope. But the FDA noted that the version of chloroquine that had been authorized for emergency use is now not approved in the US. So all use of that particular drug, which is donated by Bayer, B-A-Y-E-R, will now end. Just like that. Like I said, I'm still waiting. I mean, there's no link to the study. We have zero idea how they came to this conclusion. Oh, there's a letter though. There's a letter. This is what the letter says. This is by the BARDA, which is Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, right? That's what they said. Get ready for all these numbers I'm about to throw at you. We now believe that the suggested dosing regimens for CQ and HCQ, chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine, as detailed in the fact sheets, are unlikely to produce an antiviral effect. Okay, that's one bullet point. Earlier observations of decreased viral shedding with HCQ or CQ treatments have not been consistently replicated, and recent data from randomized controlled trial assessing probability of negative conversion showed no difference between HCQ and standard of care alone. Okay. Ready for these numbers. Okay. Current U.S. treatment guidelines do not recommend the use of CQ or HCQ in hospitalized patients with COVID-19 outside of a clinical trial. And the NIH, oh, here we go. The NIH. Why am I not surprised? I was waiting for that to come up. It says, and the NIH guidelines now recommend against such use. And there we have it. It wasn't really the FDA's decision. It was the NIH's decision. The same NIH that is under the jurisdiction of Dr. Fauci. The same Dr. Fauci who was best friends with Bill Gates. Oh, it's like a damn broken record. Over and over and over again. It's if the NIH's name doesn't show up, Fauci's name shows up. If Fauci's name doesn't show up, WHO shows up. If WHO's name doesn't show up, Bill Gates' name shows up. A lot of the times, all those names show up together. And the only thing I can't ever damn get to show up when any of those names show up is a damn study linking and verifying anything that they claim. Never a study. I see Fauci's name all the damn time. I see Bill Gates' name all the damn time. I see the NIH all the damn time. I see WHO all the damn time. But what I never see is a damn study attached to anything they claim. The last bullet point says that recent data from a large randomized controlled trial showed no evidence of benefit for mortality or other outcomes, such as hospital length of stay or need for mechanical ventilation of HCQ treatment in hospitalized patients with COVID. So are you basically saying that people are dying? Everybody who's taking it has died? Because that's basically, that's a pretty, y'all, do you understand what type of burden, that like statistical burden that puts on the researchers? You're saying that no data has shown, or excuse me, that the data that you're using has shown that there is zero evidence of benefit for mortality. That basically means that a bunch of patients are dying while taking HCQ or chloroquine. And bro, this is the same thing that was claimed in the Lancet that had to be retracted. Do y'all know that? This is the same claim that was made. And if I have a feeling that when we finally are able to actually figure out where the study came from, why I got a feeling Bill Gates' name is going to show up somewhere. Why I got a feeling. Still waiting for these numbers, bro. Still no numbers. It says that, but there is a memorandum explaining the basis for revocation. Okay. This is a memorandum. Okay. The memorandum actually just talks about a bunch of bullet points too. But it does say there's emerging data and published literature. Whoa, it's a lot of syllables. Emerging data and published literature? Well, if emerging data and published literature has raised new questions, then of course we should be basing all of our federal policies off of that, literature. Oh man. So, nothing. Based on the above, the agency has concluded that it's unlikely that CQ or HCQ may be effective in treating COVID-19. Further, in light of ongoing reports of serious cardiac adverse events. Okay. Where are the reports? Once again, the standard is that this is the standard. They're saying that basically you're dying or you're suffering from serious cardiac events. In other words, you're having heart problems that are abnormal for those who take hydroxychloroquine. First of all, I want to see if they're actually giving hydroxychloroquine with zinc like they're supposed to. And I want to know if they're giving hydroxychloroquine with the other drug. I don't remember what the name of it is, but there's another drug that if you find out a patient has a heart problem, you're supposed to give them that in conjunction with the hydroxychloroquine rather than the zinc. I'm not a doctor, except a doctor told me that, and that's what all the other doctors are saying. But I hear no mention of zinc or the other drug in this particular study. So, but basically the standard is that you either die, according to them. There's been a lot of people who've either died or just had serious heart. That is such a ridiculous claim. Oh, man. Okay. I'm trying to go back to this report for y'all to make sure I'm not crazy. So it says a brief clinical report on 100 COVID-19 patients in China reported clinical improvement and superior viral clearance with CQ treatment versus unspecified control. And then additionally, a clinical survey by French researchers involving 20 COVID-19 patients reported that HCQ alone in combination with azithromycin was associated with viral load reduction over 6 days. In the French report, the viral load changes were statistically significant compared to the non-randomized controlled group and were more pronounced in patients who received combination. Based on experience with other viral illnesses, it was reasonable to believe that reduction in viral load may be predictive of clinical benefit. They're explaining to you why everybody else has made it okay to use hydroxychloroquine. That's what they're basically doing, to explain why they allowed it in March to begin with, why they allowed emergency use. In fact, they've actually given more information right now as to why we should continue to using HCQ than they've given for not wanting. They're literally giving all the reasons for why they did the emergency use. And they haven't really, oh, here we go. Okay, there we go. So there is some published literature regarding viral shedding. The agency has reviewed additional published literature becoming available since the EUA was issued. Okay. So what do we have here? Oh my God, y'all. They said, so they had one test where the probability of negative conversion was this, about 28 days reported as similar. The median time to negative conversion was 8 to 7 days respectively. Proportion was similar at multiple time points. Okay, so what's the problem? So it says that out of the 50, oh, actually, they don't really say how many reported this. They just say a lot of people reported that it was either a similar feeling or that there was a negative probability of negative conversion, or their symptoms started receding 8 to 7 days after they started taking the drugs. But the moral of the story here is that they actually don't really provide any real studies. And the amount of days, one is 15.3, one is 5 days, another is 12 days. One is using HCQ plus antibiotics. Another is lopinavir, ritonavir together. HCQ nothing. One did HCQ with zinc. And it's crazy because they're using some Chinese studies, right? Problem with that is the Chinese also came up with a solution that they created with Cuba None of those studies are there for that solution, for that medication. It's crazy how that works. They like to pick and choose. I actually have no idea who these people are. I don't know why they're being used. I seriously don't. I couldn't tell you why their information is being used and why their literature, quote unquote, is being used as compared to other literatures that suggest clearly hydroxychloroquine is no more dangerous than using it in your everyday life. So if you could use it before, then it's okay. If you could not use it before, then you shouldn't use it. I mean, that's generally how medicine works. Just saying. So I'm still trying to understand, because it's crazy because they revoked the emergency use of the drug based off of basically flimsy, from what they're suggesting, not from what we can actually see, but from what they're suggesting, they're basing off of very flimsy evidence that it will do more harm than good. Very, very flimsy. Because last I checked, I did see one thing in these studies, or the little bit of the study that they provided for us, which is like a snapshot, if even that. I didn't see a lot of people who said they died. Not that you could report that, but that once again, this is a standard that they've set. They said, oh, we can't, because for you to revoke the emergency use, it has to be more than just we're not seeing a good enough improvement. Because once again, that hasn't stopped them from demanding that we use ventilators. And the studies that show improvement from other drugs around the world that have been used now, successfully so, like in Cuba. Why aren't they have actually seen positive outcomes, and they have the data, and they're more than willing to give you the data to prove that they've seen the positive outcomes, and yet you're not reviewing those. And now over on the other side of the fence, you're claiming that people gonna die. Like that's what you're saying. That's the only way you can review. Like it has to be more than just not effective. It has to be harmful. And I'm not seeing any data that suggests that hydroxychloroquine is any more harmful in, was it June of 2019 than it was in 2020, good God, June of 2020, than it was in January of 2019 or January of 1998 for that matter. There are a lot of people who take this for rheumatoid arthritis, a lot of people who take this for, malaria. There's a lot of uses for this drug. And it was not considered dangerous, outside of the potential side effects based on your pre-existing health conditions like every other drug. It was not considered dangerous. Let me get to some of these super chats. Sparky, if the government pushes a second wave quarantine, public will respond with collective one finger salute. Government lies about politics, why not everything? I agree. I'm not down with the second wave of quarantine. It's just kind of hard for you to pitch this idea that if we do the social distancing and disinfect and wear masks, I take vitamin C, so I'm good. But if we do all the things that we're supposed to do, it's supposed to reduce the likelihood of us getting the coronavirus, one. And then of course, if you've gotten it before, supposedly you're supposed to build up the antibodies that protect you from getting it again, at least in this season. And then there's a bunch of factors that's supposed to make it so that we're not, the quarantine was supposed to reduce a lot of the factors. But the reason that the quarantine was ended was because supposedly the likelihood of us getting the virus or contracting or giving it to somebody else had been reduced by the implemented standards. Like, you're going to interact at the grocery store, bro, you got a much higher likelihood of getting the coronavirus from the grocery store than literally almost anywhere else, because you gotta go to the grocery store. This isn't like going to the club. This isn't like going to the bar. This isn't like going to the park. This isn't like going to the beach. People are there because they feel good, they look good, and they're trying to step out to enjoy themselves. You're not stepping out to enjoy yourself, you feel like trash. But if I gotta get groceries, I gotta get groceries. If I got to go to the gas station, I got to go to the gas station. That's not changing. And if these practices of social distancing and wearing a mask and all that good stuff aren't working, then you need to tell us, and the quarantine probably didn't have a reason to exist anyway at that point, right? So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You need to just be honest about it. But if it does work, then there's no reason why we should go into a second wave of quarantine. People should be, reading the play on the field. There should be adequate testing provided. Figure out if you have the damn virus, and then quarantine your damn self. That's how I feel about that. I'm not down to quarantine anymore, people. I'm just not. We've just seen so much happen negatively because of the quarantine. Mental health issues have skyrocketed. Obviously, we have too much economic strife in the country right now to go through another quarantine. The government is not cooperating with us. We can't survive another quarantine. I mean, we can survive, but it would be just that. Most people will be barely surviving, but we'll also have to be prepared to be homeless very shortly if we do another quarantine. Sparky, the FDA is the most corrupt federal agency going back decades. That's quite an achievement. I mean, it's a pretty damn good argument for that. You said, in like 5.7 billion times safer than Tylenol. You said, hold up. You said hydroxychloroquine is safer than Tylenol? I need an article for that, man. Don't be saying that. I'll take Tylenol every now and then. You said it's safer than aspirin too? Took lots of HCQ in the Army. No issues. Why not try? I luckily never had to take HCQ in the Army. I know people who have. People who have deployed to Africa generally have to take a lot of it. Is that it? Okay, cool. So yeah, man, this it's just not a good look, man. People who need this drug, like, do you know how successful it is? There was one study. There's a doctor who came out and said the problem with hydroxychloroquine plus a combination of zinc or the other drug, in which I can't remember the name of right now. But the problem with it is not that it's not effective. Is that they have now, it's been so effective, at least in the way that he's applied it, that they are running short and can only use it now in cases where the COVID situation for a particular patient has gotten so bad that the virus has evolved so much that now they don't have they can't just treat you preventatively, and they can't treat you just because you are having some symptoms, or they can't treat you if you are asymptomatic, because that is not considered an emergency situation that they can use to justify giving you a medicine that they are now short on because it has been working. That is what I've been reading. That is also what a doctor told me. So and by the way, whenever I read these things, they're providing plenty of statistical data to support this. The doctor provided me with links to statistical data to support his claim. And yet, every time I see Fauci, NIH, Bill Gates, etc., I don't ever see no links to no study. I get things like, oh, after 4 days of rigorous studying of 25 patients and inconclusive data, we've decided that the data was at least conclusive enough that we can ban the drug in its entirety from being used. That's the kind of information I get from them. That's the kind of data we get. Don't trust it. Why would I? For what? I can't trust the FDA, the same FDA, who is refusing to acknowledge the other solutions regarding COVID, while simultaneously claiming that the reason they are banning one potential solution is because of health concerns and this need to protect life. If the need to protect life is there, then why aren't you investigating all the other solutions? Oh, maybe it has to do with the fact that, do y'all know the acting director? His name is Gary Disbrow, who was the one, or Disbrow, excuse me. He was the one who suggested we remove the emergency use authorization for COVID, right? He's the acting director, however. Why? Because the last director was removed. There's a whole quote unquote whistleblower thing. He was saying, what a surprise. He was saying in the last director, his name is, give me a second, Richard Bright is his name. And he said that the reason he was actually removed from the Trump administration was because he was blowing the whistle on COVID-19 for a while now. And actually, if you look, Trump has actually been talking about and taking steps to prepare since January, if I'm being real. He and the rest of the federal government have not even done close to enough, but pretending like Trump ignored all warnings, this is just not true, factually speaking. But Richard Bright, claims he was removed because he tried to get Trump to authorize research and to push for research into a vaccination in January. What a surprise. No, not find a solution. I know some of y'all might be thinking, no. What he really said was he wanted to find a solution in January, and that's why he got, no. And I quote, he raised alarms about the brewing pandemic. He said, and lives were lost because higher ups didn't heed him. Pretty sure lives were lost because our healthcare system sucks, but that's neither here nor there. He said he faced hostility and marginalization from officials at the Department of Health and Human Services who ignored warnings to start work on a vaccine. Not, okay, let's figure out what solutions we potentially already have available so that we don't have to waste time, money on R&D, which is research and development, and we can instead focus on the distribution. We can instead focus on forming a coalition. We can instead focus on breaking down some of these trade barriers put in place by disastrous trade deals so that we can at least do what's in the best interest of the lives of the people here in this country. So if we have to temporarily break down the barrier with Cuba so that we can have access to their medication, if even only for research purposes, then we should absolutely do that. If we have to break down barriers with some countries in Africa, some countries in South America, et cetera, then that's something that we must do, especially because it can save time, it can save money, and these solutions are already available. We're not playing with fire. We don't have to guess what the potential long-term ramifications of a drug that has never been achieved, a vaccine that has never been achieved before, and then all of a sudden you blink, look up, and all of a sudden now the drug that y'all were never able to create is all of a sudden there. Now we don't have to guess whether or not there are going to be long-term ramifications of that vaccine. I mean, I just watched the damn drug commercial the other day, and me and my wife and my best friend were laughing. It was the funniest commercial ever, because basically we couldn't even tell you what the drug was supposed to do, but I can tell you all the ways that you could die from taking it. And they're like, but buy it. But consult with your doctor first. But buy it anyway. I don't even know what the drug did, but I can tell you how all the ways that you could die taking it, bro. And that's what's being advertised. That type of stuff. So I'm not saying that, like, warning that we should start research into a vaccine is inherently bad if you are predicting a pandemic. But I am saying, if you're only advocating for a vaccine rather than doing what somebody who's actually trying to solve a problem would do, which is research every possible available solution already at your hand rather than reinventing the wheel, then I am questioning your intentions. And given that the memorandum was very clear that the NIH is behind this removal of the emergency use authorization for hydroxychloroquine, I'm questioning your intentions even more so. I think there's going to be a lot of backlash here. Like I said, when it comes to this hydroxychloroquine issue, where I disagree with Trump a lot, I know one thing's for sure, and two things is for certain. Donald Trump is a man who won't even smoke weed. He doesn't drink because he believes that his body is a temple. That's why he looks so great, guys. No, but in all seriousness, he doesn't do any of those things. He doesn't put things in his body, that are considered quote unquote foreign, that he doesn't research extensively. And he has more research and more people on his personal payroll and more access to information than you or I could imagine. So if he's like, I'm taking this, and the other world leaders are also saying they're taking it preventatively too, I'm going to probably go with the guy who got more access to more information than you do. Just saying. Especially when I know if this ain't one thing for sure, if two things for certain, that Donald Trump going to take care of Donald and Jay and Trump. every single time. And that alone should be enough reason for people to raise an eyebrow and be like, why would he put something that's going to kill him if he saw the research? Just saying. And why are other world leaders doing the same then? So, I think we got a super chat too. Let's see. Oh, they're coming up late for me. TK Wiremu. Fun sad fact. In Maori, we say aroha instead of aloha. While most simplify it to mean love, etc., the literal definition is focus on their breath. That's interesting. And let me see. I think I'm missing one. What's the other one? What did it say?
CDC blatantly ignored COVID-19 initially, despite it being all over international news since the
I'm not seeing that.
stories in November 2018.
Let me try. There we go. I was able to pull it up separately. Okay, you said CDC blatantly ignored COVID-19 initially, despite it being all over international news since the bat suit stories in November 2019. You are correct. And the only reason I know that you're correct is because Tulsi was talking about this, and I distinctively remember, much to my shame, I wasn't the only one, but I distinctively remember in December and January, I was like at an event or whatever, and I'm like, man, why is she talking about this? This ain't gonna be a problem. We're good. It's all right. And she was criticizing everybody for taking this issue lightly. Already talked about trying to find solutions and taking advantage of solutions available. She was talking about this for a while. She introduced the UBI for a quarantine that hadn't even happened yet. We didn't even know we were going to be quarantined in March 13th, but Tulsi was so prophetic in her predictions regarding COVID-19 and the government's response to it that she was able to be ahead of the game. And so that's the only reason I even knew that. The CDC handled this completely wrong. What's new? The WHO has handled it wrong to the point where countries are threatening to leave the WHO because of how bad they handle this, countries in Africa specifically. I mean, Fauci is Fauci, so. But yeah, that's the way the cookie crumbles, right? The last guy who was in charge of the, what is it called? The DARDA, that research and development for disease prevention, all that good stuff. Before it was Gary Disbrow, before it was that guy, it was Rich Bright. And Richard Bright also wanted to exclusively focus on getting a vaccine. Not finding a solution, getting a vaccine. Not exploring all options, getting a vaccine. You get what I'm saying? You should always be skeptical in situations where someone tried to tell you that only one solution will do. And that solution just happens to be extremely profitable for a very few people. And all the other solutions would mean that it is far less profitable for those same very few people. Once you have that situation occur, you should immediately be skeptical of everything. Just say. Let's go ahead and move on because we're talking about Tulsi anyway. Got an interesting situation that has arisen. Make sure that y'all share this. Make sure you like it. The Libertarian Nominee Jo Jorgansen. I hope I said her name correctly. But Jo Jorgansen has thrown some shots at Tulsi Gabbard. She said that, you know, although she agrees with her one policy, well, she said Tulsi only has one good policy. However, she is horrible on domestic issues. And she said that Tulsi was actually the most dangerous candidate out of all the potential Democratic nominees. This is the same candidate, people, or this is the same Democratic primary that had somebody who is literally suffering from dementia and was a segregationist. A black woman who might as well be a segregationist. A white woman who pretended to be Indigenous American and got caught by the president that she's supposed to run against. A woman who is responsible for letting off Derek Chauvin, who eventually ended up killing George Floyd. I mean, really, the list kind of goes on. I feel like I shouldn't have to. After those four, you shouldn't even have had to think. You should have never even got to Tulsi's name as far as who's worse, as far as the Democratic candidates are concerned. But she said specifically that Tulsi was the worst. What I find interesting about that is the pure dumbassity it would take for the Libertarian nominee to say some dumb stuff like that about Tulsi Gabbard. Now, if it comes from a Democrat, a lot of Democrats believe Tulsi was fundamentally the most dangerous candidate because she was fundamentally the most dangerous candidate to both establishments. But even Trump, Trump does know that a lot of these numbers are cooked up. And he knew that I don't care how popular I am. I don't care how many MAGA hats I see at my rallies. I don't care how many times Tulsi has called me out on Twitter, on mainstream media, on independent media, etc. I'm not talking trash about Tulsi Gabbard because y'all can believe those numbers if you want to. I know the facts, and I know that she has a coalition that is broad and far-reaching. And that is especially true for libertarians, Jo Jorgansen. In fact, your party tried to get Tulsi to be the nominee multiple times. Most of them wanted Tulsi to be the nominee. And then it was Justin Amash, who I know wanted Tulsi to be the VP nominee. He wanted Tulsi on the VP ticket. So and by the way, Libertarian officials told me that Justin Amash wanted Tulsi as. So it wasn't Justin Amash's campaign per se. It was Libertarian Party officials wanted Tulsi to be VP nominee for Justin Amash. So they wanted her to be the nominee. They were okay with her being the VP nominee. You were basically the last resort, if I'm being honest. What do you not like about Tulsi's policies? Like, what could be so bad that you would risk ostracizing a massive voting bloc that was largely considering voting for you, that, if I'm being honest, are very, very loyal to Tulsi for very good reason? Until someone else is going to introduce election fraud legislation, until someone else is going to introduce climate change legislation as great as hers, until someone else is going to try to decriminalize all drugs, until somebody else is going to ban all private prisons, until someone else is going to address foreign policy in a way that is actually productive, until someone else is going to introduce single payer plus legislation, until someone else is going to call the Democratic Party and Republican parties, until someone else is going to introduce UBI before the quarantine instead of pretending like they want UBI after the quarantine and still, of course, doing nothing to actually address it, until someone else is going to introduce the No More Presidential Wars Act so we can hold presidents accountable, until someone else is going to introduce the Fairness of Media Act, until someone else is going to introduce legislation to demilitarize the police, until someone else do all those things. I perfectly understand the loyalty to Tulsi. Because ain't nobody else about to introduce any of that shit, as we have seen. A lot of the people who voted for Tulsi in the primary are from your party, or they used to be part of your party. And they specifically switched to Tulsi and were probably strongly considering voting for you in the general election. And now that's probably not going to be the case. Because for some reason, third parties felt like, hey, I got a bright idea. I know this is like the worst possible time to do this, but can we shoot ourselves in the foot with a shotgun right before the parties are right before the election where both parties are the most vulnerable? Right? It makes perfect sense. That's why Howie and Joe, they must have collaborated and said, let's just shoot ourselves in the foot by attacking the candidate in the Democratic Party that most people from the Green Party and the Libertarian Party like most, as far as the Democratic candidates are concerned. What the hell? What are you doing? There are some people whose bar was so low that they didn't even care about anything else involving domestic policy. They were just, they were happy about your foreign policy. They were like, well, as long as she's an anti-interventionist, I'll settle for that. Because they don't even want to vote for Howie anymore because he shot himself in the foot so much. And then you do the one thing that Tulsi supporters have had quite enough of over the last 2 years. You smear Tulsi. Inexplicably. Why would you not be trying to build a coalition with somebody like Tulsi? I don't care if you disagree largely on domestic policy. You have the most influence over foreign policy. 70 to 75% of that damn job in that White House is foreign policy. You have the most power over foreign policy. As long as the president is good at foreign policy, 80 to 90% of the time, I'll just focus on my local government to get the domestic policies. Because, well, let's be real, a lot of our policies are funneled through the eye of the MIC. So everything that we're told is possible and not possible is only deemed so because it does not or does benefit the MIC, military industrial complex, which Tulsi talks about. Domestic policy is foreign policy. Foreign policy is domestic policy. So if you agree on that one issue, which would be 70 to 75% of your damn job, and you need her coalition of supporters, why in the hell would you think it makes any sense whatsoever to attack her with a lie nonetheless? Subjective lie, but like, let's be honest, once again, Tulsi is the most dangerous Democratic Party candidate. If you mean in the sense of she can literally dismantle the party from within if she won the nomination, then yeah. That she could pull Republicans over and damn near win all 50 states if she got into the general election. Yeah, if that's what you mean, of course. But that's not what you meant. I'm telling you, people. This weird thing that I see happen, like where people just, I don't know what it's like there's some, like something takes over some of these people. They're like, there's literally zero positive, like there's no net positive for smearing Tulsi right now. There's zero, especially for a libertarian. There is no net positive for smearing Tulsi, and what people will just, their brains get fried. I don't want to speculate what it could be, what it might be, what it might not be. There are a plethora of reasons it could be. But you see these super weird, like unprompted attempts to try and attack someone who doesn't even really care about their existence. If I'm being quite frank. Tulsi got a lot of stuff going on. She probably don't care all that much about Jo Jorgansen. And maybe Joe wants her attention, and maybe that's part of the reason why, because Tulsi has not acknowledged her like she's acknowledged Justin Amash. Maybe because she knows the party really wanted Tulsi and didn't get her, and therefore they kind of settled for Jo Jorgansen. Maybe because for a long time she was losing to Vermin Supreme. And you were a serious candidate, and Vermin Supreme was satire, and he basically really, I think the numbers show that he actually did win, but of course they weren't going to nominate him because he wasn't being serious. Even though that would have been hilarious. So maybe, once again, it's personal. And the beef doesn't make any sense because the beef is not worthy of being beef to begin with. It's not a beef, it's a personal problem. There is no beef because Tulsi, once again, probably could care less about your existence, if I'm being honest. She's all about live and let live. And she probably don't care about your life. And the Libertarian Party made it clear, or at least a lot of members of the Libertarian Party made it clear how much they love Tulsi. And libertarian voters even made it clear that they would probably prefer Vermin Supreme over you. So I guess that's why maybe it's kind of awkward though. I'm not gonna lie. I guess I'd be a little upset too if a Democrat and a satirical character was actually more preferred than myself by my own party. Probably would be upset as well. But I'm telling you, bro, it's super weird that these third party people just are like the ones who end up not winning understand the necessity to build a coalition, are making all the right moves, and are actually probably the best candidates. And then the ones who get the nomination just like I said, they begin taking a machine gun to both of their feet, like completely unprompted. Doesn't make any sense. Why? Like there's no positive outcome that could come of the smears, of the lies, of the attacks, of the suppression. Like you see with the Howie Hawkins campaign, unforced errors over and over again. Unforced errors that anyone with common sense would avoid, including Donald Trump, who is smart enough. Even when Tulsi attacks Donald Trump, policy-based, of course, Trump is like, I'm not going at her. You see how many of my supporters like her? I am not doing it. I'll defend her before I attack her. Even Trump is smart enough to realize this. And Jo Jorgansen is not, and she's probably going to pay for that now. So, Sparky, thank you very much for the super chat. Trump says he'll drain the swamp, but surrounds himself with alligators. Like your boy Mike Pompeo, your boy Elliot Abrams, and your girl Gina Haspel. Those is not my friends. Why you trying to play me, man? But you're right though, 100%. What did Tulsi say? Called them chicken hawk. He said, "With your chicken hawk cabinet," because it's true. Because they're really punk asses, right? But they're hawks on war. But they themselves are probably the biggest punks that you could think of, if we're being honest. They would never fight what we call the fair ones. So, what's up? What are they? Oh, I see one says, Sparky, thank you very much. Military industrial complex keeps Tulsi down. 100%. We knew that was coming. I said from the beginning that was coming. I said when she first announced, this is before I even endorsed, I said, you're going to see smears immediately. And the more smears you see about her, the more you should probably think that that's the candidate you should be voting for. Because that's basically how we should be determining who we should be paying attention to and who we should be taking seriously as an ally for the people. They don't smear people who are enemies of the people. They don't smear candidates who are enemies of the people, who are working fundamentally for the powers that be rather than us. They don't smear those candidates. They smear the Tulsi Gabbards. That's who they smear. And it was obvious from the beginning who they were like, it got to the point where they even showed that as long as they could stop Tulsi, they were okay with Bernie. That's where it was getting to. Now, of course, they were able to, the coronavirus kind of threw a wrench in everybody's plans, but you were still seeing signs of that. Yeah, Bernie was smeared, but it was not even close to what Tulsi dealt with, where she didn't even have defense from her good friend. Sparky, you said it needs to be a replacement party. A third party is not possible without ranked choice voting. Yeah, what we need is people advocating for ballot initiatives. That's what we need, more so than parties. Parties are good because like what MPP is a party, but they're focusing right now on ballot initiatives and ballot access to make them a viable party in several different states. That is what we need, and I love it. So it's not an unforced error. It was to stop a third party. Howie is the other leg for stopping progressives. That's what it seems like. It is what it's beginning to seem like. I see sports dropping. So he said, have you discussed the New England Patriots Journal study on how... Oh, New England Patriots. Oh my God. My ass. I saw sports and saw New England. I'm like, it's got to be about the Patriots. Have you discussed the New England Journal study on hydroxychloroquine published in Telesur? I have not, but if you could link that to me on either on Twitter. Actually, that'd be the best place to link it. At Niko CFB, you can see right there, bottom left? Is it left? Is it left? I'm looking right, but I think it's on your left. Okay. But if you can send that to me, I'm gonna check it out. That's it for that one. All right. So last thing we're gonna talk about. There is some good news. Just briefly. As you all know, a lot of Republican states, a lot of red states have been basically trying to infringe on protections for workers in the LGBTQ community. And surprisingly enough, the Supreme Court actually voted in favor of the LGBTQ community's protections. Finally, some damn good news, which is funny because I've actually said that this is going to be the case. I've said this. The people have no idea it's basically an impossibility. When there is some major progress made, when you're talking about giving rights to somebody, there is almost no case in history, no precedence in history, where the courts have decided, you know what, we're going to take rights away now. That's not how it works. It has never been how it works. Even states' rights are really only limited to, at least they're supposed to be, only limited to providing extra rights that may not be provided by the federal government. That is it. Not restricting rights for others. So when people kind of hyperventilate, okay, act like when they oh my God, the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, what? Ruth Bader Ginsburg! Well, we have a conservative-dominated courtship right now. The bench is full of Republicans. And yet, we were still able to get this right. So the whole idea that abortion is all of a sudden going to become illegal across the board, it's not happening. Like Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned. No, it's not happening. It's not. It's just not. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. I'm sure there are going to be other, but like those are not even the biggest problems that we need to be looking at when we're talking about the Supreme Court. Like Brett Kavanaugh, Clarence Thomas, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, they are tools of the police state. They are tools of the military-industrial complex. They are tools of the Patriot Act, the George Bushes of the world. That's who they protect. Brett Kavanaugh helped protect the NSA when they got caught spying on people they weren't supposed to be spying on. He helped to write the Patriot Act. He made sure it was all the legal jargon was there to protect them in every way they needed to be protected. That is where the issues begin. And once again, as every other issue in politics, if you're paying attention, it is not left or right. It is them versus us. It is elite versus the working class. It is accountability versus no accountability. And that is what you should be worried about. If you are worried about the Supreme Court, once again, that is why I wanted a Tulsi Gabbard to win. Because I understand the Supreme Court is a problem no matter who gets the nomination. And it isn't for the reasons that y'all may be seeing discussed on Twitter and Facebook. I don't give a damn about Ruth Bader Ginsburg being removed. What I give a damn about is how to prevent the next Ruth Bader Ginsburg from being appointed. That's what I'm worried about. How to prevent the next Kavanaugh from being appointed. How we remove lifetime appointments when our political dialogue and our issues and our conversations are constantly in flux. We're the only country that has a limitation on presidents but lifetime appointments on Supreme Courts. Every other country has unlimited, because if your elections are legitimate, then and the people keep choosing somebody, then that's the people's choice. But when you're the Supreme Court and you're an appointment, how the hell can we justify a president who only gets 8 years max being able to choose an appointment for a lifetime? What the fuck? What kind of logic is that? Why are we not having that conversation? I'm glad that LGBTQ workers are protected. 100%. But I also knew that was going to be the result. They're not going to do stuff like this. They're not going to overturn stuff like that. You know what once again, like we talked about in the beginning of the live stream, you know what they're going to do? They're going to do things like make sure that police immunity is not challenged at all, that it is not heard at all, that it cannot be overruled at all. That's the stuff they're going to do. They're going to protect the powerful. They'll throw us bones, they'll throw us crumbs, they'll even get some stuff right. But once they give rights to people, they don't take them away. That's generally how the Supreme Court works. Once they make that ruling, this is how it is. They have this right. You can't do anything about it. Once they make that decision, it doesn't get taken away. But they do preemptively take rights away all the time through authorization of illegal spying, through the protections, like I said, through protection of the police immunity. Like what they just did with this DNC fraud lawsuit, which is another show I have to do. Like, they have the ability to protect powerful institutions, and they will preemptively limit your rights. But once a right is given, once that precedent has been set, they do not take it away. Which is a good thing, by the way. Good thing. They don't want that backlash, because then it looks purely political. If enough courts have ruled in favor, left and right, what do I look like as a Supreme Court deciding I'm just going to take somebody's rights away? Just like that. So that's some good news, though. That's some good news. So the Supreme Court didn't wake up completely full of shit this morning, only a little full of shit. We don't get the challenge on police immunity, but we do make sure that our LGBTQ brothers and sisters are protected in the work environment. And that's some damn good news. We already have enough problems in this class struggle. We don't need another one. All right. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Make sure that you subscribe. More importantly, make sure you subscribe to us on Rockfin, ROKFIN.com/Niko, Niko, which you can find that link in the description below. All right. Make sure you go subscribe to everybody else on Rockfin as well. But if you want everybody's premium content on Rockfin, once again, that is myself. That is Pasta and Fiorella. That's Graham Elwood. That's Ron Pacone. That's Kim Iverson. That's Jimmy Dore. That is Robbie Yeager. Y'all love Rob. You get his articles, his premium articles on there, and his premium videos on there for free. The MCSCN Censored podcast for free. Or not for free, but premium content. Everybody's premium content. Richie Medhurst from Poppy Chulo. You get all that premium content if you endorse me on Rockfin. ROKFIN.com/Niko. Don't endorse Jimmy. Love Jimmy, but y'all, Jimmy good. He all right. He got like 4 or 5 people on the payroll. Jimmy good. But we trying to get some people on our payroll over here. We got to take care of the MCSC fam, man. And you can still watch his stuff anyway. And he'll still get revenue from it. That's the good thing about that. You endorse me, I get revenue from it. And if you watch me and him, premium content, then we both get revenue from it, even though you endorse me. That's how it works. That's how it should work. And I would like to flip the bird to YouTube. I want to get my video demonetized. With that being said, people, thank you all so much for watching. And always remember, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. If you like that segment of Mikasa Sukasa, don't forget to like the video and smash that subscribe button. Want access to members only live streams, behind the scenes footage, and other premium content? Well, you can endorse us on Rockfin Premium, become a patron through Patreon, or you can sign up for the MCSC Premium membership through YouTube. All the links are in the description below. But hey, more than anything else, always remember,
find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Always remember, more than anything else, find your balance.
peace.